something in India, particularly something in Hyderabad, can be of a global and world standard. I really like our malted cacao bean dragée. It's a single origin West Godavari cacao bean that's panned or coated with a 43% malted milk chocolate that we make. Chakarkeli banana. This banana is a banana we're all obsessed with. We make 8 or 9 different products with this banana, and this is a very unique banana that grows mostly in 2 districts of Andhra Pradesh.
Welcome back to the Expressions podcast. Today we are in conversation with Chaitanya Muppala, the founder and force behind Manam Chocolate, India's groundbreaking crafts chocolate brand that's reimagining the journey from cacao fruit to bar. Coming from the legacy of Almond House, a beloved Hyderabad-based mithai brand, Chaitanya took a bold leap into uncharted territory. Under his leadership, Manam has gone from idea to global recognition in record time, winning 17 international awards within its first 100 days. Join us as we speak to Chaitanya, not just about making chocolate, but about how he's rewriting how we think about it.
Hello, welcome to Expressions. Today I'm joined by Chaitanya Muppala. He's the founder and force behind Manam Chocolates. He's just not making chocolates, but he's rethinking about how he's redefining and rewriting how we all think about it. Thank you for coming for
No, thanks for having me.
So, tell us a little bit about yourself, your growing up years, your early influences. We'd love to hear about it.
So I grew up in Hyderabad, partially, but largely was away at a very alternative boarding school. It's a Jiddu Krishnamurti school near Pune. So we grew up climbing rocks and waterfalls and reading books, and that's how we grew up far away from the city. It's only when I came back and then started finding myself in the environment that we grew up in, which was a business that my father ran, which was mithai, that we started learning about how to solve problems, and the interest in food and particularly process and production around food and positioning and market around food started developing. So that's kind of how we got into a lot of this.
You came from the Almond House legacy, and what pulled you from traditional mithai to the world of craft chocolate?
The customers, we were starting to hear, I mean, we didn't know anything about chocolate, but we were starting to hear about the need to understand and do something around chocolate. And that kind of led to figuring out what is happening in the world of chocolate and what is not happening in the world of chocolate. And that led to an understanding of what craft chocolate can be, and then deciding to kind of start an exploration in that direction from the context for ourselves as a business in India.
You said that it all started as just some work. At what point did it become clear that this was going to be something big?
There are a couple of inflection points. One of them is when we realized that chocolate in itself is universal, that we could create chocolate and chocolate experiences, particularly for Indian consumer behaviors, that fit regardless of what market it is within India. So that was one inflection point, that this is scalable. The second is when we ended up with the bean that we created with the technology that we built at our fermentaries, and we realized that we were able to actually create something of value and that we can make world-class chocolate with it. That's when that was the second inflection point. And the third inflection point is usually almost always when you spend too much time and too much money and you have to make it big.
Your brand goes before the bean and beyond the bar. What does that philosophy mean to you, both in how you work with farmers and how you reimagine what chocolate can be?
Yeah, so I mean, the philosophy is that our chocolate making starts on a farm. We work very deeply with agri-side technology that we built to solve a problem that we've identified for Indian cacao, which is to try and pivot Indian cacao from its industrial origin and industrial uh, inception to what is known as fine flavor, which is flavor oriented, suitable for craft, and also a lot more premium. So our work starts with soil, with genetics, with farming practices, and now we've built one of the world's largest fine flavor cacao fermentaries. And that's where we deploy the technology that we built. That is, in very briefly, is a compensation for the lack of fine flavor genetics in Indian cacao, with very evolved post-harvest processing, which we're constantly improving and iterating on. That's built on a technology platform that we built. So that's all the work that goes from how we procure, how we work with farmers, what we do with the cacao. Everybody else in the world buys dried beans. We start from fruit. We make the bean. And then it moves on to the beyond the bar part, which is that we don't see chocolate as something limited to a bar, or we don't see the bar as being the most relevant interpretation of chocolate for us as Indians. It's about how chocolate articulates itself in dessert, as a cake, in ice cream, in on a Diwali celebration table, at Christmas, how different culturally relevant consumer behaviors can be fitted into chocolate as against a bar.
So why do you think Indian chocolate was never taken seriously until now?
I don't think Indian chocolate really existed until now. It's only in the last 10 years or so that there have been a lot of people who've been passionate about chocolate and cacao and who started building something. Up until now, chocolate in India was an industrial product and largely imported in the form of its raw material, but also largely imported in the form of, the brands that we all have been familiar with.
So you talk about a fourth wave of chocolate. What does that look like? How is it different from the bean to bar movement we've seen over the last few years?
It's what I was referring to earlier, which is that the way we look at chocolate is we came from a context where chocolate in India was largely mass produced, compound based, which is not real chocolate, but with alternative fats, and then progress from that to couverture chocolate, which is also mass produced, but couverture, branded couverture, which then transitioned to this whole small scale, small batch, bean to bar movement, which we are now proposing that we transition to a more culturally relevant, scalable craft, but articulation in a lot more relevant product archetypes and product categories to create product and experiences that are relevant to us as Indians. And that's what we are describing as the fourth wave.
So you work with over 150 farmers. How do those partnerships work?
So we have a very different model. We work with farmers through an economic model that we've built where farmers follow certain practices that we prescribe and we procure fruit from them, which are harvested based on practices that we give them to do. Today, we're working with nearly 300 farmers. We're spread over nearly 3,000 acres of cacao. We engage with them digitally, and our focus is building a farmer network that works with us not because they're contracted to us, which they're not, but because our incentive system makes it far more worthwhile for them to work with us, give us their produce, than to give it to the conventional chocolate world.
I noticed that every Manam bar can be traced back to a farmer. Why was that important?
So, I mean, it's less relevant right now on the consumer side in India, but that's a reflection of the technology that we built. So, every bar of chocolate can be traced back to exactly one particular farm. One part of our business is also that we're trying to build a reputation for Indian cacao. So, we also export these beans to major fine flavor and craft chocolate makers globally.
Okay.
That traceability makes it uh, definable that this cacao has been very carefully procured. Yeah. It's carefully traveled and carefully manufactured into that bar. So it indicates to the end consumer that this is not bought in a commodity market, or it's not bought blindly. that care has been taken to procure and also craft that chocolate.
Authenticity, basically.
In a way, yeah.
Apparently, a fermentary in Hyderabad is one of the largest in the world for fine flavor cacao. What happens there that makes your chocolate stand out?
Yeah, so fermentary is in West Godavari, in Andhra Pradesh. That is the core of what makes us different. It's how we make that bean. There are three things that influence flavor and complexity in chocolate: the genetics of the tree, which we are not particularly advantaged with in India, the soil, the terroir, which is what else grows around it, the environment of those trees, what other producers around that influence the flavor. And the third is the post harvest processing, where you take the fruit and you ferment the beans in that fruit to create complex flavors, or rather to allow the bean to express the complex flavors that are in them. Now, because we're not particularly advantaged with fine flavor genetics in Indian cacao, largely because of the history of how cacao came to India and the purpose for which it was brought, our focus is on the post harvest processing. And that's what happens at the fermentary. That's where we built all of this technology. That's where we process all of the cacao on season every day. During the season, they process over 60,000 individual fruits of cacao, which are known as cacao pods.
So what's the history of cacao to India?
Cacao came to India very recently, relatively very recently. Cacao came to India only in the early 60s, and it was brought to India for industrial purposes by large industrial players. So the genetics that they brought were brought from industrial stocks. So they brought clonal varietals that are optimized for productivity. So these trees are robust, they're disease resistant, they have high fat content, which is where the money in this value chain is. It's in the cacao fat. But they're not particularly optimized for flavor, because industrial chocolate focuses on productivity. The flavor is induced by additives or through formulation and process. In craft chocolate, which is what we make, which needs fine flavor beans, where the beans are crafted carefully and have interesting flavors in them. Everything that we do to express what the bean has to offer and try and get rid of what the bean has to offer that is not pleasant.
Okay.
And that's largely the role.
From fermentation to aging, how much of chocolate making is science and how much is intuition?
It's all science.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You won 17 international awards within 100 days of launching. What did that moment mean for you and your team? And did that feel like validation or just the beginning?
For us, it is validation, but then it's restlessness, because it's an iterative process, right? Every year, the world is getting better at craft chocolate. And if we know that it's more validation that there is potential, and it's a reflection that there's a lot more potential that needs to be uncovered.
So your stores aren't just stores, they're experiences. How do you design these spaces to tell the Manam chocolate story?
There's a method to a lot of what we do, but it's all directed by strategy. So we have a strategic directive as to what do we want to achieve, and then it's broken up into product, it's broken up into space, it's broken up into stories. And there are three primary stories that we like to tell as a brand. One is that we grow these beans, we work with these farmers, and we do it at scale. The second is that we make chocolate from these beans. And the third is that we make all of this confection from this chocolate. And we try to, in at the Manam Chocolate Karkhana, a lot of the craft of making the chocolate and then making confection from chocolate happens in front of the customers. That's actually our karkhana. That's where we make most of our products. The parts where are of where how these beans are grown and the work that we're doing with the Indian cacao farmer, we have to bring as story and narrative, and that we do through installations and touch screens and interactive displays, etc. But we look at experience as a multisensorial thing. So as soon as you get down from the car, you'll smell the cacao being roasted. that kind of drives you into this self-guided tour where there are numbers and there are decals on the glass where you can actually see the chocolate being produced and try and understand what each of these steps means.
Sounds so
Yeah, you
simple.
should visit.
Your flavors are super creative, like curry leaf and chai biscuit. What's the process behind choosing them? Do you ever think, okay, maybe that could be weird?
So we have a, I mean, we're also trying to strike a balance that we don't want to be reductionist of our interpretation of what Indian means into very stereotypical notions of what is Indian. At the same time, we also want to embrace what our traditional ingredients and ingredient stories are. So we tell 2 or 3 story arcs, and that's how it. These are where we pick an ingredient which is a hero and that expresses itself in different types of products across different categories. And one of them is the chakarkeli banana. This banana is a banana we're all obsessed with. We grow these bananas around our fermentary. They're brought to our stores in Hyderabad and in Delhi. We make 8 or 9 different products with this banana, and this is a very unique banana that grows mostly in 2 districts of Andhra Pradesh, Krishna and West Godavari, and it's got a very unique sweetness. We make a soft serve ice cream with that banana, which is very popular. We make a banana caramel bonbon. We make a banana vanilla pudding, and there are 7 or 8 products that are made with that banana. And like that, we have 3 or 4 ingredients. Like we have the Guntur chili, we have the curry leaf that expresses itself in different places. And we pick these and we tell these stories across products in terms of how it can pair, but also how it can elevate chocolate and chocolate experiences.
Wow.
Like the Guntur chili is in a product called there's a raspberry and Guntur chili popcorn dragée. So that's a savory sweet popcorn that's panned or coated with our 40% creamy white chocolate and has freeze-dried raspberries and the Guntur chili.
So the bananas and these things, are they seasonal or they are throughout the year?
Some things are seasonal, but then we also freeze dry, we store, but some things are also almost perennial.
So you've launched drinks, spreads, pastries. It's not just bars anymore. What next? Is there a format you're especially excited about?
We've just launched our new small format called the Beverage Bar. We launched our pilot store in Hyderabad at Knowledge City, and we have the Beverage Bar as a module at our Delhi Experience store at El Deco Center. And the Manam Chocolate Beverage Bar is chocolate based beverages, hot, cold, iced, shakes, plant based, leaning on specialty coffee, leaning on gelato, leaning on baked goods. It's how chocolate can be articulated as beverage in its various forms. We're very excited about that.
Yeah, it sounds super exciting.
You should visit.
Yes, I know. I'm missing out already. I can sense it. Where do you see Indian craft chocolate going in the next 5 to 10 years? And what role do you hope Manan Chocolate plays here?
So, as a brand, we're Indian craft chocolate, but what we're selling is great chocolate. And I think chocolate as a category in India has a long headway to grow. Uh, we're all, at least in urban tier one India, looking for new experiences, discovering them, and owning them. And for those reasons, I think there's going to be a lot of excitement and activity around these categories. For us, it's really exciting to see where all we can take craft chocolate that we're making from the beans that we're growing and how can we express them into businesses that operate in different categories. Beverage is one of them, perhaps ice cream is another. Gifting is largely the business that we're building, but we hope to build ourselves to a stage where we are confident enough to take our product and our retail experiences international.
And in India, you're there throughout?
So we're a year and a half old.
In
So
all cities in India?
we're right now, we ship pan India from our web shop. We're present in Hyderabad and Delhi right now.
You're in Bangalore.
We have product available at various stores like in Bangalore.
So, how would you describe your leadership style today and how has it evolved since the early days of Manam Chocolate?
I was running another business before this. So
what is it?
I ran a business called Almond House.
Yeah.
We make mithai. So I've been doing that for 10 years, but nobody talks about that. My leadership style is constantly evolving, and it's largely because of the peers that I work with. I work with a great set of people who have very high standards, and we're constantly working with each other and becoming better leaders together. So I don't know if I can describe my leadership style. That's probably for someone else to do, but I hope it's moving in the positive direction.
Manam Chocolate is both deeply technical and highly creative. How do you build and lead teams that operate across such different
Yeah,
worlds?
we see this business as being a creative business. We see it to at being, and I think most consumer businesses today are at an intersection of the creative and commercial economies. Uh, and there are various different sorts of teams that need to be built, but also need to be motivated and aligned to the mission to run a lot of these strategic objectives. And the way we built and structured this business is somebody who leads product or operations uh, is demanded to be just as creative as somebody who heads the creative function or design. And it's about creating a table where all of these folks can sit together and co-create. And largely that's my role here, is to kind of create an environment that first people want to come to, and then people want to, and create an environment that is conducive for them to be effective.
And you've been successful?
Okay, I would say.
You've taken on
It's very roller coaster.
You've taken on something that didn't exist in India at this scale, a national craft chocolate ecosystem. How do you keep yourself and your team aligned with that bigger vision in the day-to-day activities?
I don't think I do that. I think we do that together. And there are several custodians of the brand within the company. And I don't think it's a unidirectional approach, it's a joint approach. And you'll see that somebody drops the ball, somebody else picks it up, and it happens that way. But it all kind of, if we want to align somebody new to the mission, I take them to the farm, I take them to the fermentary, and that seals the deal, more or less, because you see the work that we're doing.
Yeah. And what does Manam mean?
Manam means we or us in Telugu.
And who thought of it?
That's also strategic. So nothing around this brand is because somebody likes something or somebody has a favorite color.
Okay.
Everything is directed by a strategic note that would be written.
Okay. So, what's the first chocolate you ever truly fell in love with?
I mean, for most of us who are kids who grew up in the 90s, our primary association with chocolate and the magic of chocolate is the dairy milk. So for us, that's the memory.
Yeah. What's one decision you lost sleep over at Manam Chocolate?
I don't lose sleep much.
Okay.
I have other colleagues who lose a lot of sleep. I get to sleep.
What's something you still haven't figured out yet but are actively working on?
Sorry, I'm not able to be rapid, but one of the things that we're really working on is how we can very quickly improve our delivery mechanisms, supply chain, because one of the bigger challenges of doing fine flavor, craft, and real chocolate in India is the temperature. And that's primarily one of the bigger challenges that we are very focused on solving right now.
What scares you more, growing too fast or not fast enough?
Neither.
What's the trait you struggle with most as a leader?
Temper.
One word people use to describe you that you secretly love.
Oh, I don't know. They probably use a lot of pejoratives that I can't love, but I really don't have an answer for that.
A habit or ritual that keeps you grounded.
You need a habit or ritual to keep you grounded if you are floating. So we are very subterranean. So I don't think I have one to. I actually need a habit or ritual to pull me to the ground.
One book you recommend to every entrepreneur.
May not be a business book, but one of the books that we grew up reading and I often pass around is this book by Richard Bach called Jonathan Livingston Seagull. For an entrepreneur, it's you can interpret it as a direction to think critically, be different, and not be part of the flock.
If you weren't doing chocolate, what would you be doing?
Nothing.
Dark milk or white chocolate?
Dark.
Okay. One Manam chocolate flavor you could eat forever.
I really like our malted cacao bean rage.
Okay.
It's a single origin West Godavari cacao bean that's panned or coated with a 43% malted milk chocolate that we make.
An offbeat flavor you love to create that's been on your mind.
So I don't do the flavor creation. I have colleagues who are much more talented who do that. I'm actually not very competent in that, so I'll sidestep that question. But then now I have colleagues who are far better and far more competent than I am, so I'll refrain.
What's the wildest chocolate idea you've ever had but never launched it?
Tough one. Tough to be rapid about.
Okay. If Manam Chocolate had a theme song, what genre would it be?
Probably jazz.
What's the best piece of business advice you've ever got?
I don't want to share it.
Okay, fine.
I'd like to keep it for myself.
Okay, what's your favorite way to enjoy chocolate? Alone, with coffee, with music, any ritual?
I think that's the beauty of chocolate, that it's versatile, and it's not only how you consume it, in what context, but also in what form. So chocolate as an ice cream, chocolate as a cake, chocolate as chocolate, they all fit.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you for having me.
That's all for the Expressions podcast today. If this conversation made you rethink what chocolate can be, or if it just made you really want some, you're not alone. Be sure to check out Manam Chocolate, and if you're ever in Hyderabad or Delhi, don't miss their immersive stores. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Expressions podcast by the New Indian Express. Catch you next Friday for another inspiring story with a brand new guest. Don't forget to leave a comment, like, share, and subscribe to the New Indian Express YouTube channel.